Hello everyone. On today's video, I'm gonna teach you how to create a simple experiment on a Bruker NMR equipment, solution state or solid state, but all my videos is going to be focused on solution state NMR. By the way, my name's Denise Favara. First of all, you have to have a really good sample, which means that you're careful enough to have like a clean sample, no solids, no bubbles, at least on the range that we are measuring. You also have the right height. It means that you have the right amount of the right volume. So you have like 500 microliters for a 5 millimeter tube or 200 microliters for a 3 millimeter tube. So how do we create an experiment? So for example, if you're using a sample case, right, or a carousel, you always have to check if there is sample inside. You can see here like there is nothing inside. You can also you have to check also if there is nothing running. You don't want to kill anybody's experiment. Check the temperature. You don't want to put it like your sample on a temperature, for example, inside of a magnet where the temperature is like outside of the range that you want to measure, or that your sample is stable. So everything's fine for me. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna put in my sample there. So I am using a sample case. So my sample is at position 24. So I just type SX space position 24. Okay, while it's like it's injecting my sample, I will create a new experiment. I can create using EDC, or I can use new as well. And this will appear. So what I'm gonna do, like I'm gonna put like test. So for example, this experiment, I like to put the date. So for example, today's 8/25, August 25, 2022. Experiment 1, like processed number is 1. So I would just like, I can either, for example, if I'm copying an experiment, I can use current parameters, or I could just create a new experiment, for example. And if I'm doing this, I will do like, for example, I can choose a proton normal experiment. And then I would have to say, okay, so my sample is water D2O, or is water D2O salt, is DMSO, whatever. I will pick my folder on this computer. Okay, so you don't want to run your experiment inside of anybody's folder, and you can actually type here, okay, whatever you have, like the title of like, oh, my sample has this buffer, what is the concentration, temperature that I'm running my experiment, whatever. Like you can enter all this kind of information and click OK, and it's gonna create now, it's here my new experiment. You can see that my sample now is inside the magnet. So I like to first of all, I like to do the ATMM, that's to correct the match and tune. So you have like, for example, this is a hydrogen experiment. So, and it's a 600 megahertz. So you want to be at the right frequency. You see, it's really far from the center. So this is the frequency of my equipment, like for hydrogen, and I'm really away from that. So I'm gonna like, this is an iterative process. So you see, like I'm lowering this, I'm changing the match, but I'm also pretty far from the proper frequency. So the x-axis is frequency and the y-axis is the match. Pretty much what we're doing here is that you want to guarantee that you're gonna have as sensitivity as possible, like for this sample. So I'm gonna just adjust this. So still not really good match. I'm almost there. Okay. Okay, so now it's perfect. We can save and exit. No, it's not necessary to save. It's kind of auto save it. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lock, even though I recognize the lock because the previous sample was also water D2O, I will just do the lock. So just type lock, enter, and then it's gonna show this table, or you can just type lock space the solvent. So the lock, pretty much what it does is that it avoids that if, for example, it's a system that's always monitoring the D2O on your deuterated solvent. So let's say that your feed changes like by 20 or 50 hertz. So the system see this change when it's monitoring the deuterium or on D2O, for example, here, and then it corrects. So you never have like your field is always constant. So my lock is done. You see here, like lock is done. So you see, like also I have like no power here. So what's gonna do is like I'm gonna read the powers for this probe. That's a TXI probe. So I type get prosol. Prosol is a table where like I have like powers and pulses. So it's like it read that, and now it shows like the power. So this is a I have water D2O, 10% D2O. So I have a lot of water, right? And I'm running a simple pulse and acquisition experiment. So one thing is like when you're running experiments with water, usually you have like your offset at your transmitter at 4.7. This is the chemical shift for the water peak. Also, like this is just one experiment that I wanna just check the water peak, right? So I'm gonna put like this to the minimum. Also, now, for example, I correct my match and tune, I have it right. I have my powers corrected. I have the lock correct. So I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run Topspin. So I'm gonna open this graphical interface. I will optimize for solvent suppression up to Z6. And I will also optimize the tune after run the shimming. So after one Topspin, so I will calculate the pulse. And then we can run the experiment. And this experiment is going to be pretty much going to observe water, even though I have a really concentrated sample there. So that's why, for example, next step in this case, it's to run an experiment where we have water suppression. But if I'm optimizing my, let's say, pulses and everything for this one, so I want to just copy the next one. I mean, I want to just like from this one, I will generate a new experiment and then I will go from there. So I will pause this while I'm running Topspin because it may take a while. So I'm gonna just pause. So now Topspin is complete. So see like Topspin complete successfully. Also, you can check the report here. So complete successfully. There was an improvement of 22.5. So let's see how it goes. So now we have everything like except the pulse calibration. So to optimize the pulse, you can just type pulse call. So it's going to calibrate the pulse. And once it's calibrated, we can check the simple 1D experiment. We can also, even though I know that the RG is going to be pretty low, the receiver gain, because the sample has lots of water, like, and I'm not suppressing the water. Right now I can run, for example, RGA for this guy, and because there's a way to automatically calculate the gain, the receiver gain. So I can show what happens, for example, when when you have when you saturated the receiver. So you have you have a lot of baseline issues. So it calibrated to 1.6. I had this at 1. So for example, running 2 scans and 2 dummy scans. So 2 dummy scans pretty much like run the pulse sequence but doesn't record anything. And then 2 scans, what are summing this 2 scans. So I can check that. So when it starts running, so it's here. So I see a lot of water. So this sample is pretty concentrated. I have a peptide, 20 millimolar, and you can see other stuff here, but you also see like you have pretty much only water peak. So what I can do now is just, I'm gonna copy this experiment and I will choose another pulse sequence. I could choose lots of different pulse sequence for water suppression, but I will choose my favorite, that's excitation sculpting. So when I do this, it's gonna complain because there is no, these gradients are empty. If you're using a version of Topspin higher than 3.5 pet level 5, like 3.5 pet level 7, you can use this like GPPP, and it's gonna read and fill up the gradients values. If you don't, you just you can type these values here and choose the gradient file right here. But I don't have like the pulses correct here, so I can just type get prosol. But remember, if I type get prosol, it's gonna override here like my pulse, my correct pulse that I calibrated. I can either calibrate the pulse again, or I can just like get prosol. It's hydrogen. The pulse that I calibrated is 9.63, and the power for the hard pulse on this probe is minus 11.48. Gotta be extremely careful because each probe has its own power. So you have to check this first using like normal get prosol. So I have it's like now corrected. I can check now. How about my receiver gain? I had 1.6, right? But now I'm using pulse sequence that has like water suppression. So my receiver gain should be higher, right? And it's calibrated, and its final value is 181 that you can check right here. Also, it's a peptide that will decrease this number of points. My minimum number of DEM scans is 4, and my minimum number of scans is 8. So I can check if there's like this power here is okay or not. It's like this power is SPDB1, so it's a shaped pulse. So I can, if I am to check if this is okay or not, which is pretty okay. You can see like really good shimming, but you could always check SPDB1 for the pulse sequence that has excitation sculpting. So that's okay. I can just stop and run my experiment. That's it. So you're gonna see like we can compare the difference between water suppression and the pulse sequence without water suppression. We can run also like different water suppression pulse sequences as well. Like for example, we could use ZGPR. That's another one that's using pre-saturation. We could use Watergate. We could use wet, Fleabag. There are several pulse sequence. So we're gonna just process this guy, and okay. So you see, this is highly concentrated sample. All my peaks are here. Pretty good. Oh, I can also check my shim. Also, like this sample has an internal reference, I can actually set the reference using as half. So I see the couplings with silicium here, the 6.6 hertz. So yeah, it's pretty good, my shimming. Yeah. So what happens is if I'm gonna end this video and start a new one with different pulse water suppressions. Pulse sequence for water suppression, I think it's gonna be more useful, like not having like a really long video. And yeah, thank you for watching this. And I'm so sorry because it's my first video. So yeah.